This is A Course in Miracles. It is a required course. Only the time you take it is voluntary. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. It means only that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. The course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. This course can therefore be summed up very simply in this way. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. This is A Course in Miracles, a reading from Chapter 8, The Journey Back. Section 6, The Treasure of God. We are the joint will of the sonship, whose wholeness is for all. We begin the journey back by setting out together and gather in our brothers as we continue together. Every gain in our strength is offered for all, so they too can lay aside their weakness and add their strength to us. God's welcome waits for us all, and he will welcome us as I am welcoming you. Forget not the kingdom of God, for anything the world has to offer.
So like you said before we started, the important part of this is this us and this we. There's this real team.
Yeah, it's a team effort.
We might as well be in a Boy Scout camp and somebody is saying, okay, you and me, we're on this hike. Mm-hmm. These other guys are going to join in.
That's right.
But we're together, and they're going to join in. So it's very personal.
Yeah, and the we, because from the prior reading, yesterday's reading, we had Jesus speaking to us to say, let us not lose, the prior one was, let us not lose sight of his direction through illusions, for only illusions of another direction can obscure the one which God's voice speaks to.
But the important thing is that it's Jesus. The important thing is that there's a person. There is a person who is an author of this course. And this author of the course is offering personal relationship.
Mm-hmm. This is a joint effort in that any gain in strength that we have by joining with Jesus, who is one with God, so now we're one, all of that becomes a force going forward that helps others to lay aside their weaknesses, which then adds to our strength. The second paragraph. The world can add nothing to the power and the glory of God and his holy sons, but it can blind the sons to the Father if they behold it. The world can add nothing to the power and glory of God and his holy sons, but it can blind the sons, it can blind the sons to the Father if they behold it. You cannot behold the world and know God. Only one is true. I am come to tell you that the choice of which is true is not yours to make. If it were, you would have destroyed yourself. Yet God did not will the destruction of his creations, having created them for eternity. His will has saved you, not from yourself, but from your illusion of yourself. He has saved you for yourself.
There's this team effort where we're together, and we're in this together. And it's saying that if you look at the world at large, if I look at the world, ironically, the Course does these kind of backwards language things. It says it can't add to the kingdom of God.
It cannot behold the world and know God.
Well, but earlier on it says it's not, beholding the world is not going to add to the kingdom of God. In other words,
right.
You can't get enough of an eyeful of the world and what it has, whether it's wonders or beauty or whatever it is in the world. It's not going, the eye candy of what the world is cannot lead you to God according to the Course. Why? Because underneath all eye candy and the disasters. Both. I mean, if you're talking the beauty of the world, you're talking the ugliness of the world. You're talking about both. Underneath both is God's talking to us. So if I'm, it's a little bit like, let's say, the world would be like, let's say there's this beautiful woman talking to me. You know, let's say, I know that that's sexist, but there's some beautiful woman is talking to me, and I really can't concentrate on what she's saying because I'm so hung up with just staring at how beautiful she is. I don't hear a word she's saying. Okay. So her beauty distracts me from what she's trying to get across. This is a weak analogy of the world, that I cannot find God if I'm looking at the world in the usual way. In a way, like with the woman, you almost have to like close your eyes, look away, listen to what she's saying. You can't let her pummel your eyeballs. So if I see the world, I can't see God, because God is relational. The world, magnificent though it may be, is built out of the separation itself.
Right. And also, our perceptual reality is based on a past-future reference. So we're always in a place where we're referring to what we're seeing, really, it says, in the past. And so all of the learning that comes from the Course is about acquiring a space of now space. Then what we look upon, they actually describe it as having a quote radiance. Everything becomes, the dark and the light have a radiance coming from it, because the radiance of God is everywhere.
But that now space, I know I'm interrupting, the now space is not time.
Right.
It's not a second, it's not a meditation, it's not 10 seconds.
Right.
The now space is that, like in the Yoga Sutra where it says, Atha Yoga Nushasanam, now begins the exposition of yoga. What is the now space? It's when I look at the world and realize it's the old woman or the crone. What are you looking at? In other words, it's the optical illusion. Don't fall for just looking at it.
Yeah, the things. All the things
don't
that
fall
are
for looking at it. Always ask yourself, wow, this is coming, something's coming at me. Just at least find that place. Something's coming at me here. I don't know what it is. Something's coming at me here. I'm looking out the window, I'm looking through blinds, I'm seeing a pot of flowers, it's all fragmented from the blinds. What am I seeing here? My mind is filling in blanks. I'm seeing the flowers, I'm seeing the grass, I'm seeing the blind, the spaces between the blinds or whatever. I don't know what I'm looking at. I really don't. And then, like with the Course and the exercise, I can expand my vision out to my peripheral vision. I can take it all the way out and say, I don't know what that is either. I can look at it. I don't know what that door is. I don't know what that lamp is. It's like the first exercise.
Yeah, the first. I give all the meaning that it has for me or something.
So it's necessary to decouple the visuals and the perceptuals of the world. It's necessary to decouple it just so that I can say, I don't understand. I'm not going to see God's voice. I'm not going to hear God's voice. All I can do is decouple.
Yeah.
That allows that voice to come through.
I agree.
So that's where this world distraction thing comes in.
And the glory that it's also speaking of, it said it can blind the sons to the Father if they behold it. So you cannot behold the world and know God. We discussed that. I agree. That's there. Okay, we got a very short paragraph here, so maybe I will just read two of them. Let us glorify him who the world denies, for over his kingdom the world has no power. No one created by God can find joy in anything except the eternal, not because he is deprived of anything else, but because nothing else is worthy of him. What God and his sons create is eternal, and in this, and this only, is their joy. Yeah. No one created by God can find joy in anything except the eternal. And so when we are asked to even see, it says there's one of the lessons is that I want, above all else, I want to see. It's not seeing with our eyes. It's seeing the things that are eternal. It's seeing that joy is everywhere. It's seeing the love is everywhere. It's seeing the eternal landscape is woven throughout every little molecule, every little cell, every little thing, the universe itself, the stars, is being held and is infiltrated by God itself. There's no place that it is not.
There's the first line of the Gayatri Mantra is Tat Savitur Varenyam. And Savitur, what happens is sometimes when they give an interpretation, this is directly related to what we just read. Tat means that. Savitur is sometimes interpreted as the sun or the solar god or the solar entity. But what it really means, the Savitur, is the effulgence. Effulgence meaning the glow inside of the sun. In other words, I've got a sun, it blinds my eyes, but what is effulgence? Okay, it's a fine line to understand, okay, I'm looking at this, the quote-unquote, the sun, and it blinds me. So, so what you want to say is, what creates glow? What creates luminescence? What is even luminescence? It's a concept, right? But the thing is, luminescence illuminates the mind. It illuminates ideas. It illuminates form. It illuminates content. Without luminescence, without coherence, you got nothing. And so what they're saying in the Gayatri Mantra is, I worship that principle of luminousness, effulgence, the glow behind the sun. Yeah. And there are also concepts in other metaphysical traditions about, they call it dark light, meaning the light, and even in Buddhism it says, they use the term the clear light, that you finally, that's like the highest form. You go through the yellow, the red, the orange, whatever they are, green, and then you meet the clear light. And the clear light is, they sometimes call it it's a black light, sometimes, but it's, what it means is, can you believe? And you got to sit with it for a second, because to sit with this concept is the same as sitting with God present in every particle. As you said, God present in every particle is like saying, I'm looking at, there's a light that can not blind me, but I can look away because of its radiance, and there are no photons in it. Okay, you got to decouple the idea that light means bright.
Right, I agree. Yeah.
And that there's a principle, and that happens within me. If there's too much luminance that happens in my own brain. In other words, if I find out a little too deeply who or what I am, if I get too clear of a picture of what I really am, and it violates what I think I am, I look away. It's blinding.
Right.
I don't want to see it. It hurts my eyes, in a sense, in a figurative sense. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. I mean, and the ego is going to rebel against that anyway. It doesn't want you to find that particular remembering of who and what you are. So there is a tendency, it frightens us because it means that the aspect of the ego, body, self is now secondary. It's like it doesn't like that at all. I mean, it wants to be the primary force and the primary thought and the primary mind that you're referring to at all times.
So you go through the proverbial walk in the woods or the overlook at the Grand Canyon. You go, oh, God is present in so many wonders. It's so beautiful, and you meditate and you're just thinking about God and whatnot. But if you can do the flip and realize, that divinity, that God Almighty, alive. It's not like he's crystallized in the Grand Canyon.
Mm-hmm.
It's like my dynamic awe in the moment is a mere shadow of something that's coming at me from the world, from this thing we call, quote unquote, Grand Canyon, or from the walk in the woods.
Yeah.
And that those moments can tear you away from time-space. They can tear you away from time-space. We're talking about Francis and the leper.
Yeah.
It tears you away from time-space. Now with Francis, it caused him to kiss a leper.
Right.
And in our case, if I see that, if I see who you really are, it tears me out of time-space. It make me cry, make me weep, it can throw me into various kinds of neurotic, even reactions.
Yeah.
To coping with trying to get my ground back.
Yeah, I've definitely experienced some of those, and I understand exactly what you're talking about. And that effulgence, if it dawns on the mind, can create almost an internal sense of awe. Like you can't believe who and what you are.
Time-space ends.
Yeah, you can't believe who and what you are, and you can't believe that all the world is full of who and what you are. It's like a joke.
But it won't last long.
No.
But I mean, it's like I just speaking from my own personal experience. If I spend a second, and I try to do that suspension, it's really more for me. It's more measured as a flicker. It's not even a time. It's a flicker. And I'll have that flicker, and I'll try to make that flicker extend. I don't have the talent. I can get the flicker of the thing that's behind it. That's as good as it is for me. Anyway.
Well, there we go. Now,
does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And, in this this section called The Treasure of God, they're asking us internally to glorify him whom the world denies. For over his kingdom the world has no power. So there's this internal upwelling of at least allowing a praise to the God Almighty, the one who is in all things, above all things, and through all things. There's this, take a moment to consider. Take a moment to consider that it's everywhere. Glory to him. So that's what this is, the treasure of God. Now, on paragraph 4, listen to the story of the prodigal son. Listen to the story of the prodigal son and learn that God's treasure is Listen to the story of the prodigal son and learn what God's treasure is and yours. This son of a loving father left his home and thought he had squandered everything for nothing of any value, although he had not understood its worthlessness at the time. He was ashamed to return to his father because he thought he had hurt him. Yet, when he came home, the father welcomed him with joy because the son himself was his father's treasure. He wanted nothing else. I'm going to continue because most of us know that story, and this is the point here. God wants only his son because his son is his only treasure. You want your creations as he wants his. Your creations are your gift to the Holy Trinity, created in gratitude for your creation. They do not leave you any more than you left your Creator, but they extend to your creation as God extended himself to you. I'm just going to stop there because this is a longer paragraph. I just wanted to include it with the prodigal son because it explains the fact that God is just waiting for us to want to join back with him. And that creates an immense joy because the son himself was his father's treasure. And then in the following paragraph it goes on to talk about that God wants his son because his son is his only treasure, and you want your creations as he wants his. So he wants to bring it back to that our extensions into the world can come back to us and give us as much, this is my interpretation here, as much joy as the Father received when his Son who left him came back, and he was like, oh, amazing. That came, the love just never really left. There it is.
So without me going on, because I just laid a big story out about the prodigal son. I think it was yesterday or the day before.
Yeah, I think it was yesterday. We talked about it.
Yeah, and so rather than get into that, clarify for me why is the Course bringing up the prodigal son? Is it because you're saying that the son is the Father's treasure?
Yes.
And that treasure cannot really leave the Father. It can
think it can leave. And it also says that the Son thought that it squandered the treasure.
Well, and then it would mean that the Father's true treasure, which is interesting, and this is a nuance, the Father's true treasure was not the stuff the Son wanted. Right. The Son wanted to, basically liquidate the asset, go out and spend it, and he enjoyed it, and he liquidated that asset
until it was not so good anymore.
But if he understood the Father,
yeah,
if he had understood the Father, he would know that the Father's treasure was in relationship. Mm-hmm. Relationship. Yeah. So if I want to reclaim as a prodigal son who has said that the Father's gifts to me, my whatever attributes, learning curve, education, possibilities, all that kind of stuff, money in the bank, energy, etc. I have spent it, okay? And I've squandered it. And now I come to a point in my life and I go, wow, that was much ado about nothing. It all runs out, doesn't it? It just runs out. And now I might as well be, with the slaves out there. I'm in the story, he's eating slop. He's
the pigs.
He's looking at the pigs saying they got it better than me.
Right.
The pigs have better. Why don't I go back to my Father's house? Still not understanding that the Father's treasure
is the Son himself.
Is relationship.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Relationship, and that means the Son. Relationship isn't an abstract. Relationship always involves another person.
Yeah.
So the Son still doesn't get it. He goes back to the Father only then, when the Father kills the fatted calf. That's what I said before. The Father kills the fatted calf. He says, "Here, let's enjoy a feast." I'm going to say that fatted calf. This is me, okay? It's in the Course of Miracles. Being the necessary sacrifice that happens when we do stuff here. There is a kind of, the Course doesn't use the term sacrifice. I know that's a dirty word in the Course. Mm-hmm. But in this world, there's something for something. There's a something for a something. There's a cause and effect. We're in a dualistic thing. As the Indian terminology, when you basically, we say dodge the bullet, they say better the turban than the head. In other words, if the rock hits you, it's better if it knocks off your turban than if it hits you in the head. So that there's this sense that something's got to go. In this world of duality and of I made mistakes. Mm-hmm. There's a price to be paid. Okay, I made mistakes. There's a perceived price. Perceived.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Course is saying it's not a real price,
right.
But there's a perceived price.
Right.
The Father is saying, so be it. Let's kill the calf. And we'll make that perceived price that you paid the means of our feasting. It's the means of our feasting. He killed, in other words, the fatted calf, which I'm sure the calf doesn't have good things to say about that, ends up being the feast, prefiguration of the whole Christian story about Jesus.
Yeah.
But in that, knowing that the calf represents the apex, the epitome of the gift of the Father, the celebratory gift, the old wine from the cellar. It's the perfect gesture of largesse by the Father Only then does that son realize that the father's treasure isn't the calf, isn't the money, isn't the inheritance. It's relationship. So he grows. That son realizes that relationship with the Father is what is valued. As eventually will we get there and realize that God actually wants to relate to us. That's what it's saying here. That's what Jesus is saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Saying, listen, if you can't relate to God, I understand, but you can certainly relate to me as camp counselor, and we can go on this hike together and be in relationship.
Yeah. That's why, I always look at it like Jesus was sent as an avatar into the dream. He comes from somewhere else, but they send the essence of him in here and put it in body form.
Well, the course doesn't go there, but we are given the shining example of before and after. That's what's so great, man. You got before and after. That's the great ad thing. Before this, this is what you look like before, and this is what you look like after. Mm-hmm. Well, after, we have a son who appreciates the relationship with the Father.
Yes.
Before is the elder son. He didn't go on the deadly journey.
Right. Mm-hmm. No,
so this is why it's saying this journey into time-space. Do you see the beauty of it? Mm-hmm. This beauty, the beauty of this journey into time-space, if we've got to say it, is in the mystery of the crazy decision to separate and go. When you make this journey in truth, you will come to knowledge of God, which is relationship with God, which is being one with the will of the Father. That's the son, the prodigal son, who is returned.
Yes, absolutely.
The other son hasn't done the sacrifice. The other son hasn't made that rebellious decision.
Right. So he doesn't know what it is to be away and then return.
The moral of the story, I'm going to say, the moral of the story is don't beat your breast over your rebellion against God. And realize that in the mystery of things, it's a journey. You're on it, man. You're on it. Don't say, I wish I hadn't done it. You're on it. And it will result in knowledge and an understanding of a relationship with God if you follow it in truth with the camp counselor.
Yes, I agree.
Anyway, I know I went off on a jag, but...
No, it was a good jag. Okay. Paragraph 5. God wants only his son because his son is his only treasure. You want your creations as he wants his. Your creations are your gift to the Holy Trinity, created in gratitude for your creation. They do not leave you any more than you left your Creator, but they extend your creation as God extended himself to you. Can the creations of God himself take joy in what is not real? And what is real except the creations of God and those that are created like his? Your creations love you as you love your Father for the gift of creation. There is no other gift that is eternal, and therefore there is no other gift that is true. How then can you accept anything else or give anything else and expect joy in return? And what else but joy would you want? You made neither yourself nor your function. You made only the decision to be unworthy of both. Yeah. You made only the decision to be unworthy of both your function and the joy. Yet you cannot make yourself unworthy because you are the treasure of God, and what he values is valuable. There can be no question of its worth because its value lies in God's sharing himself with it and establishing its value forever.
How far does the prodigal son have to sink into the pigsty before he realizes he had it better back there? That's a relative question. Mm-hmm. How far does he have to sink? In other words, always I have the possibility of recognizing that relationship with the Father is what this whole thing is about.
Yeah, and it's also to recognize that I am an extension of the Father, and therefore I am his creation. And in this particular paragraph, because I am an extension, I have the ability to extend as well as a son of God. and my extensions have the ability to extend. So it becomes an infinite extension.
Right. Okay. But let's find some.
No, I know.
No. Let's find some concept grounded in real life. What is an extension?
Extensions.
I would like extension cords.
No.
What's an extension?
Yeah, it's all power. Extensions. All extensions are what I consider the qualities and attributes of God. So anything that and the Course, speaks of these things as peace, as joy, as holiness, as wholeness, as a sense of, that's peace, contentment.
All these great words.
Yeah, no. And any time I take and make a movement in my heart in extending something, the gift, let's say it's a birthday party or something, I'm bringing a gift. The gift looks like it's the extension, but it's not. It's the thought of bringing the gift to another that is the extension. And the quality of what I gave in the idea of what I'm giving for this other is the thing that goes on, not the gift itself. The gift is temporary, the one that's physical.
Well, that's interesting. And part of the image that comes to mind is I got a pitcher in a baseball game, and I got this pitcher, and he's going to extend himself, and that extension is called a pitch. Mm-hmm. And the velocity, whether it's a curveball or slider or whatever, is let's call that love or peace or joy.
Smack it out of the park.
The manner of pitch that he's throwing. Is he throwing to the batter? No, he's throwing to a catcher. So that in a sense, there's a dynamic relationship between a catcher and a pitcher. Mm-hmm. And it's purely dynamic. And I'm not going to drag the batter into it, but let's just stay with the pitcher and the catcher. Is that I'm going to make an extension. Extension is meaningless without a target. The target is that for the pitcher, it's a catcher's mitt. Mm-hmm. And that catcher is guiding his pitch, right? Mm-hmm. He's saying pitch high, pitch low, pitch inside, pitch low inside. And the pitcher is going, okay, I'll do that. They're in a dynamic communication relationship,
right?
The catcher and the pitcher. Mm-hmm. So my extensions, as God's extensions, God extended. It's like I may be love, I may be joy, I may be peace, according to the lessons in the Course. Mm-hmm. But in the end, God, as pitcher, extended to me as catcher. Mm-hmm. And that he had a relationship in mind. I'm dragging relationship into it again. Mm-hmm. That without relationship, it's meaningless. The idea of extension is meaningless without a target. And the target is, what? It's that thing your eyeball falls on. It's that person that you'd rather not look at or deal with. That's the target. The target is the world at large. The sonship is the target. That's my extension. And what is that? How do I know that I made that extension? How do I know I threw proverbial good pitch? Like God threw a pitch to me in love. Mm-hmm. How do I know? I apologize for the sports analogy. So I feel like I'm back at church. But anyway, how do I know I made a successful pitch, a successful connection, a successful extension? The love that I feel, the peace that I feel in the extension, that's what tells me I connected with the mitt. That's what tells me it wasn't a wild pitch.
I agree.
So yes, peace, love, joy, all these, they are qualities of an extension, but the extension is in relationship to the sonship.
Yes.
So if I don't have the sonship in mind first, I'm going to throw a wild pitch. There's no such thing as a good pitch by a pitcher if he doesn't have a catcher. If he's just throwing randomly out into the field, I don't care if he throws a curve slider or what. It's not going anywhere. It's a dumb pitch.
Right.
So my peace, my love, my joy is meaningless unless it has a target. Mm-hmm. And that's the sonship.
Yeah. Yes, that's true. It has to have, it's always in relationship to the other. An extension has to extend to something. And you will know And when it says, you will know them by their fruits, there's a tendency to think that the fruits are something that is tangible. I can hold it like an apple or whatever. You will know them by their fruits, but it's not. You will know them by the love in which they bring. And it's a felt love. It's not a false love.
Isn't that amazing? You know what? I never thought about the dual meaning in by their fruits you shall know them. I've always used it as a judgmental term. Like, I will be able to tell what somebody's up to by whether they're doing good stuff or bad stuff.
No, it's
But this is saying, by the fruit, by their fruits, you shall know them.
Yeah.
In other words, in my relationship, I will know them in that extension you're talking about.
Absolutely, you will know them, and you will know them also by their extension. Their extension, like, you can almost tell that it was a real extension as opposed to an obligation that you gave into the world. An obligation because I felt like I was supposed to be at the soup kitchen this week, so I'm going to go and do it and everything else. But your heart isn't into it. Everything in the realm of God for me is read by the truthfulness of my own heart, my heartfelt entry into the relationship, whether or not I'm actually giving out food or I'm extending a handshake or whatever. Am I sincere? Am I sincere in that extension, or am I just going through the motions?
Well, yeah. Well, for sure, when you walked away from it, whether or not it was a rote exercise or whether you were extending or invested in.
Right. Right. I mean, the whole idea of like reaching out to a parishioner at the church and shaking their hand to extend peace. Well, you kind of know by the kind of look on their face as to whether or not they want your peace. They want even to engage with you. Some are very, timid or whatever. I mean, there's this sense that they're not sure if they want to go there based on germs these days. But at any rate, so people will know you by those extensions. And in this one, it's saying that your creations, which have to do with your extensions, love you as you love your Father for the gift of creation. And all creations, like I said, they are not like, wow, look at, I thought about such and such and I created my new car. That's not the kind of creation we're talking about here. We're talking about a creation that has eternal life. All of God's creations are eternal. That was mentioned earlier. They are an eternal presence of something, and they go on and on and on and on. And the more we extend with that which is eternal, which is what we already have, if we can remember it, we already have those qualities. If we can extend them, they will go on and on and on. And that is the thing that is, later on in the course, it talks about this will change the world. Those extending my creations as God extended his creations to me, that's the thing that changes the world.
I go on Jags, and so I'm going to say that extending eternity or extending timelessness or whatever, for me, has no meaning. But I will say that an unmetaphysical word that I think can lead to an understanding of what that whole thing is you're talking about is relationship.
Right.
Relationship. In other words, you just think, you've got an object out there. I've got, just as a for instance, I've got the things outside the window, the flower, the this. I've got Joanna here. I've got, I'm looking at the Grand Canyon. Whatever it is I'm looking at, I've got objects in my own mind. I've got my own past, which is an illusion. I've got these different things. Relationship is an engagement with that thing. It's not an empty gazing. And that's the only creative gesture God cares about. God didn't make a creative gesture. God didn't say, let me make the Grand Canyon in all its beauty. He made something beautiful for our eyes to feast on. That was relationship.
Yes, I agree.
So, and I could spend so much time going over it, but for me, the word relationship is taken up, and maybe it's because I really don't like it that much. I really don't want to mix with people very much. That the idea of relating and dragging that word and that feeling, you know when you're relating or not.
Yeah, absolutely you do.
So I'll just leave it at that. It's relating or relationship is a quality, the quality of creation. Like I could say, okay, let's say I'm going to go draw something. I'm going to do a watercolor or something. And I could say, well, there, I'm creative. Hey, made a watercolor. But am I in relationship? You know, and what am I doing here? Am I relating either, I can say that some sort of object-oriented meditation, am I relating to the paper, am I relating to the paint? That's almost inevitable. Am I relating to other people? Am I trying to communicate something? And who am I communicating to? That's always a problem for me. I'm that pitcher. I have thrown so many metaphorical pitches out in the middle of left field to nobody. And you know what? Nobody's there to catch them.
Right. Yeah.
You know, because I'm fond of my little creative gestures, and they're not creative.
Well, and I've noticed with you, with your artwork and everything else, if there is a receiver that you're making the artwork for, it's so much easier for you to create because you're doing it at work, you're doing it for a particular job, but whenever you've created for knowing who the other is, and you have a hard time doing it for, quote, yourself, because...
Oh, it's hopeless. It feels like a waste of time.
Yeah. So when you're creating for another, then you create your best works. You do some of your best stuff.
And I also say, in my own mind, I say, well, that's not very creative.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, when it's for yourself?
No, when it's for other people.
Oh.
Creative is when I do it for myself.
Isn't that funny? Yeah, I didn't know that.
Anyway, that's a mystery.
Yeah, that's a mystery. Okay. Paragraph 6. Your function is to add to God's treasure by creating yours. His will to you is His will for you. He would not withhold creation from you because His joy is in it. You cannot find joy except as God does. His joy lay in creating you, and He extends His fatherhood to you so that you can extend yourself as He did. You do not understand this because you do not understand Him. No one who does not accept His function, my own personal function, can understand what it is, and no one can accept His function unless he knows what He is. Creation is the will of God. Now, creation is the will of God. His will created you to create. Your will was not created separate from His, and so you must will as He wills. Now, for someone who's never worked with the Course before, the words will and function and extension, and that's why you're using relationship for extension. God's will, there's many places where God's will is mentioned. God's will is for you to, first of all, is your perfect happiness. God's will is that you are love. God's will is that forgiveness is my only function.
Well, and also it says that
yeah,
I am God's will.
Yeah, I myself, the creation itself is God's will. Yes. And so it's still, again, it's asking us to create like God and to extend like God. And unless I know who and what I am, I cannot do the will of God because I've forgotten what I am. So all of this is to help me awaken all of these, everything that's written and all the lessons are designed to awaken me through this process into remembering who and what I am. At that point, the remembrance of what I am in God will come to me. The remembrance of what I am will always be there. And that there's great joy. Look, he says, His joy lay in creating you. So all of my creations would also, if I'm extending in the manner in which God said, which you said in relationship, then I will experience joy. That's my natural state. My natural state is joy. My natural state is this sense that nothing can disturb me.
Well, as people find out after, let's say, a hurricane down in South Florida or something, where the wires are down, the yards are a mess, the trees are knocked over, there's a moment where there are all these negative ions in the air. People come out, and there's really a sense of, call it baptism, of freshness. Why? I don't know. But there's a freshness. The storm comes through, and people are standing out in their front yards after all the signs are down, and they're not crying. They're looking around, they're going, holy cow, look at what happened. And there's this weird connectivity that happens. And people talked about after 9/11. Unfortunately, we seem to be able to, that these disasters clean the slate and allow
for
this
relationship,
for connectivity, and you are in bliss. I mean, really, it's unexpected. Gee, I didn't know I liked that lady across the street or that guy across the street, that old guy. I really like them. They really like me. We like each other at that moment. Now, it goes away quickly as soon as we get back to quote-unquote normal. That goes away. So I'm saying that to reinforce that our normal reset state is this sense of happiness of being together, just enjoying each other's presence here. And in that sense, the extension is easy enough, but you can quickly feel the thing that we call normalcy creep in and create those walls.
Yeah, protect yourself again. Protect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, paragraph 7. An unwilling will does not mean anything, being a contradiction in terms that actually means nothing. When you think you are unwilling to will with God, you're not thinking. There. God's will is thought. Again, there's all these places where it explains what God's will is in here. God's will is thought. It cannot be contradicted by thought. God does not contradict himself, and his sons who are like him cannot contradict themselves for him. Yet their thought is so powerful that they can even imprison the mind of God. Oh, no, let's see what that says. Sorry, I had to turn the page. Yet their thought is so powerful that they can even imprison the mind of God's Son if they so choose. This choice does make the Son's function unknown to him, but never to his Creator. And because it is not unknown to his Creator, it is forever knowable to him. And because it is not unknown to his Creator, it is forever knowable to him. So it's knowable to the Son, which is what you and I are.
I constantly and always have the possibility of knowing who or what I am. But the introduction to it is to say that I don't know who I am. I mean, I thought about it earlier, and I won't go long, so because we have this whole long paragraph to go, is the path of inquiry. I mean, it's a whole religious tradition from Ramana Maharshi and Nisargadatta Maharaj down in South India, where it's who am I? Who am I? Who am I? Which in Sanskrit is koham, who am I? Aham means I am.
Okay.
Koham means who am I?
Okay.
And then soham means I am he, I am God, I am that other. So that's a path, and there's nothing else to do. So when you got a headache, you say, who has a headache? When I'm sawing boards, I'm going, sawing boards? Who's sawing boards? Who's really sawing boards? It creates a mental space.
Right.
Now, I'm not suggesting it as substitute. I'm just saying that the Course includes so many practices all along the way that just get run over by the text and by the Christian language. Anyway, fire away.
Okay. Paragraph 8. There is no question but one you should ever ask yourself. Do I want to know my Father's will for me? He will not hide it. He has revealed it to me because I asked it of him and learned of what he had already given. Our function is to work together, because apart from each other, we cannot function at all. The whole power of God's Son lies in all of us, but not in any of us alone. God would not have us be alone because he does not will to be alone. That is why he created his Son and gave him the power to create with him. Our creations are as holy as we are, and we are the sons of God himself, as holy as he is. Through our creations, we extend our love and thus increase the joy of the Holy Trinity. You do not understand this because you, who are God's own treasure, do not regard yourself as valuable. Given this belief, you cannot understand anything.
Imagine a drum head. I know this because I've played this little drum. And imagine this drum head, and it has, let's say, I'm just going to arbitrarily choose, it could be 1,000,000, but I'm going to say 12 points of tuning. And it's a skin, a drum skin that's pulled over a rim, a round rim. And that those 12 points of tuning have to, based on what the skin is, the texture, consistency of the skin, they have to pull in a sort of a perfect relational dynamic with each other. They have to be complementary to each other. And you can have 11 of those tuned perfectly. Mm-hmm. And one of those not in tune will create dead spots in the drum head. Mm-hmm. And even
dissonance?
Dead spots.
Yeah,
literally dead spots.
Okay.
You'll hit the drum head and there's no resonance. You won't get that resonance. And it ripples unpredictably across the drum head. Now what happens is you're in a process of tuning, constantly tuning, and you keep pulling and adjusting each of those 12 points. You rotate the drum and you tap and you tune and you tap and you tune, each one in turn, and you keep on tapping and tuning and you're testing the drum. Is there resonance? Ping, ping, ping. Am I getting a resonance out of the drum head? And at some point, when all 12 are aligned, when all points have this resonance, and you've tested this resonance, the drum head analogy, the 12 points, they snap into tune. When you get all 12 of them snapped in, the drum head just really has a resonance. It really rings. And I'm using that as an analogy because the Course says that when the sonship is all aligned, that it's all powerful. Mm-hmm. That it's I don't know what term it does, what it uses. It's not unbeatable, but it is
all powerful.
It's all powerful. The sonship is all powerful when all of the elements are aligned. And I guess because the Course is this way, it's got a sort of a holographic quality to it. The drumhead analogy falls off because I have to tune all 12 points on this drumhead. I have to, or it won't snap into focus like it says the sonship will. But to tune the entire sonship requires only one.
Right.
According to the Course in Miracles, it's only one person who decides to express in their
It's also a complete forgiveness of the illusion of what I am and what I am participating in. So
if I'm relational, that relationship spreads out as though you have tuned the entire sonship.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the all-powerfulness it's talking about, is that one person coming to this awareness, or this saying, I don't know who or what I am. Since I don't know what I am, I don't know what my function is.
And again, I'm going to repeat, you must forgive what you think you are.
Yeah.
And what you think this world is. That's why there's a constant asking that what is your function? Your function is forgiveness. What is your function? It is to fulfill the will of God. You are the will of God. So there's all of these pieces that come together almost like a codex. All of a sudden all the gears start to go click, 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 and it opens the codex. It opens up the box, and you recognize that you're all one. in that recognition, apparently the sonship heals completely. My question was when the description in the back there it says how many sons or whatever does it take to save the world, and it says one. And then,
but this is a good way to think of it. In a dream, which the Course says this is a dream.
Yeah.
In a dream, if you go to another person in the dream, this is actually from some dream work, that I did, and I was talking with people who were doing intense dream work at the time. In a dream, if you have a lucid dream and you wake up within the dream, and you go to one of the elements of the dream, and for some reason you say, "Hey, come back to me. You're the real deal." So you're in relationship with this person in the dream. They will be highly insulted if you tell them that they are a part of your dream, because they have their own reality.
Right.
And so they're not going to come back with you into your reality. So in that way, if I enter into lucid relationship with the elements as in a dream, I have tuned the entire dream reality.
Okay.
And it's not appropriate.
Yes, because there's only one mind.
Yeah, there's only one mind. And it's not my business to go around and convert all the pieces in my dream that they should be in attunement with me.
Right. Your change of mind in relationship to them changes the entire dream.
Anyway, there's a fascinating metaphysic there that bears some contemplation of why is that trying to tune the dream, trying to go to the elements of the dream and fix them just makes confusion. And the only thing you have is all I have is my connection to the sonship, my connection to the mind of God. That's what I got. That's my power. That works itself. It doesn't need me to...
That's not a doing.
Yeah, there's not a doing to it.
There's not a doing part to that. Okay. Paragraph 9. I share with God the knowledge of the value He puts upon you. My devotion to you is of Him, being born of my knowledge of myself and Him. We cannot be separated. Whom God has joined cannot be separated, and God has joined all His sons with Himself. Can you be separated from your life and your being? The journey to God is merely the reawakening of the knowledge of where you are always and what you are forever. It is a journey without distance to a goal that has never changed. Truth can only be experienced. It cannot be described, and it cannot be explained. It can make you aware of the conditions of truth, but the experience is of God. Together we can meet its conditions, but truth will dawn upon you of itself. And I'm going to finish this because the other one is so short. What God has willed for you is yours. He has given His will to His treasure, whose treasure it is. Your heart lies where your treasure is, as His does. You who are beloved of God are wholly blessed. Learn this of me, and free the holy will of all those who are as blessed as you are.
So that's a reference back to the prodigal son about returning.
Yes.
And, yesterday I used the perfect circle as an analogy. I used the perfect circle. And that there is no perfect circle in the time-space continuum that we're in. In other words, when you zoom in on it, there's lumps, there's bumps, there's crenellations. It's the nature of the time-space 3D reality is that there's going to be bumps in it. And those we would call imperfections, problems, difficulties. So think of each of those jumps and bumps in terms of this. It was an image that came to my mind. Think of those bumps and jumps as these crenellations, as journeys. Each one is a journey, and it's the journey it's talking about here. And that if you take the beginning point of the journey, which is on the perfect circle, and it deviates south a little bit, and then eventually wiggles back and crosses the perfect circle again, at that point, there's a joining.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's as though that journey never happened.
Right.
It's not on the perfect circle.
Mm-hmm.
It's a deviation. It's a journey. And so the Course says these journeys, it's a journey with no time, no distance, no space. It's just a journey.
Right. And in that journey, even though it appears I am separate, I cannot be separate. It's impossible.
I will cross back on that perfect circle. The prodigal son will return to relationship.
Mm-hmm.
He will return to the
Father.
And who's the Father? Father, this bears author and father. You know, you have Father, F-A-T-H-E-E-R. Author and father. You can hear etymologically, phonetically, they sound the same. Father would have the fire, father. So there's this fiery aspect. Author lacks that fire. So when we're talking about the Creator, and we're talking about God, we're talking about our author or our Father. You're talking about the author, the Creator, the Father.
Mm-hmm.
It's the source of all this,
mm-hmm.
the origin
source
of it.
all.
So not to be confused, derailed, or confounded by the language of fatherhood. You can think of it as author,
Mm-hmm.
think of it as Creator.
Right. Yeah, and I don't know if there's anything else in there except that the recognition that you cannot be separated on this journey, even though it can appear that you're separated. The journey to God is merely the reawakening of the knowledge of where you are always and what you are forever. All of this, all the readings, all of these lessons are to awaken that knowledge in us, so that we do not want to go away from the Father, but rather become more and more like the Father in extending the kingdom, which is all of those things that we discussed earlier.
Yeah, relationship.
Relationship.
Relating.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's it.
Yeah.
It's a loop. We would just start back at the beginning, wouldn't we?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.